Hi, I'm Jane Hornstein and I'm with the Special Application Center, and this is Greg Byrne.
Hey, Jane.
And he's with the Office of Recapitalization in the Office of Housing. And we're here today to talk to you about the repositioning of public housing. What do we mean by repositioning? What we're trying to do with repositioning is to facilitate the preservation, rehabilitation, or demolition and new construction of units by increasing access to financing, particularly in the private market or other public sectors, to address capital needs. We are looking to really preserve the affordable housing assistance, either through a physical unit or through the vouchers. Why position public housing? We know here at HUD that there is a large and growing backlog of capital needs in public housing. A conservative estimate done back in 2010 said that there's at least $26 billion in capital needs. We know for a fact that that is extremely conservative, and there's much more. We are looking to try to help housing authorities to convert to long-term Section 8 rental assistance contracts in a way to stabilize their project revenues, provide debt and equity to finance capital needs, and simplify program administration. So what does this mean for your residents? Units that are better physical condition, long-term availability for affordable housing and rental assistance in their local communities, additional flexibilities to move better housing and/or places of opportunity. One question we get asked all the time is, will there still be public housing? Yes, there are a lot of housing authorities out there that are doing very well, and they're fine where they are. They don't necessarily need to reposition. All we're trying to do is open up options. The operating fund is still going to be there, the capital fund is still going to be there, there's still energy performance contracts, etc. So all that will still stay in place. We're just trying to help those housing authorities that we know need to reposition. So what is HUD's role in this repositioning? We've determined that we are there to make sure that the PHAs are aware of all repositioning strategies and to provide whatever technical assistance is necessary to help communities weigh their options. Again, this decision is strictly voluntary and up to the housing authorities to try to figure out what makes sense for them. It's not something that HUD is trying to dictate. This is all, it has to come from the grassroots. Okay, the field office role in all of this, they are there and ready to assist. We have been training field office staff, and so field office staff will be reaching out to PHAs to talk about where their portfolios are and what's needed within those. They can look at the various options and see if any make sense for the local communities and things for local communities to consider. We do have subject matter experts within HUD that can work with the various housing authorities to talk about what their various repositioning options are. And once you've decided on a course of action, there are expediters or RAD SMEs available to help assemble applications, whether it's through RAD or Section 18. And we'll go into that much later. Okay, in terms of options right now, you have two different options. You can either stay within the Section 9 program, and if you stay within Section 9, you have a variety of options. You can do mixed finance rehab and keep ACC units within those. You can do choice neighborhoods, the operating fund financing program, capital fund financing program, energy performance contracts, and Section 30 mortgages. Those programs are all in place and still available. Your field office can give you a lot more details on those. If you want to reposition and go outside of Section 9 and maybe possibly move to the Section 8 platform, you have options to go through RAD. You can go through Section 18. There is a RAD Section 18 blend now, and we have voluntary conversion. So we'll go into a lot more details about those as we move along.
Jane runs the Special Applications Center inside the Office of Public and Indian Housing, which oversees all Section 18 applications as well as required and voluntary conversion. and I oversee the transaction division inside the Office of Recapitalization that primarily is responsible for the rental assistance demonstration program, but we work very closely together. Before you choose any of those options, we really strongly encourage PHAs to collect a bunch of data, and so you can better understand whether this option works better for you. So one is, are your properties financially sustainable? How do they work? Do you have a sense yet of what the capital needs are of your properties? Have you done a physical needs assessment, or if not a formal assessment, at least have your staff done some internal sort of estimating of what the needs are? What does it cost to renovate the properties? What does it cost to operate the properties? And that operating cost sort of may make a difference between which option you choose in terms of conversion. And what is the funding stream for which you're going to convert to? Does that look like a more stable option than if you stay in the public housing program? Is there a demand for your units? And does the property have existing debt or other obligations that you have to satisfy or take care of before you pursue one of these options? More sort of planning, sort of preliminary considerations for you is, what do you have for program reserves? And some of these options, if you under RAD, for example, if you convert to RAD, then you can use, because the statute allows for it, public housing operating reserves or capital funds that can be used to support the conversion. But if you're somehow trying to preserve the asset through Section 18 or voluntary conversion or what have you, then those reserves have to be spent before you convert. And so it's sort of planning ahead, looking to see what do you have for reserves and which program you're going to apply to, and then what you can do with those reserves. Do you operate a voucher program? If you don't operate a voucher program, but you're interested in doing project-based vouchers, then you'll need to identify a voucher agency and work with your local field office if you're having trouble identifying the agency, and sort of having the field office help you screen to find someone that has the proper sort of jurisdictional authority to operate a project-based voucher program in your community. But then also looking at your staffing arrangements and what implications does the plans that you have for your property mean for the existing staff at your property? Is it going to mean that sort of the same level of staffing you have today? Might it require, because you're trying to do a much larger recapitalization, that you may have to bring in some other partners and those other development partners? Will they want to bring in also sort of private management? And if that's the case, then sort of what does that mean for staffing? So there's lots of issues. There's no requirement for any of that in the program, but it's just sort of taking stock of this before you sort of go down either of these paths. And so just more broadly, really what is best for your community? What are your goals and what are you trying to achieve through repositioning? And is the property in a good location? What additional resources can you attract? What will you be able to leverage? Does the property have value? If the value, is there some way for you to leverage that value in terms of sort of accessing additional capital? But overall, for all these transactions, that we really hope that the goal of these is either you're trying to modernize the property or you're trying to stabilize the property revenue, do some sort of substantial rehab of some deteriorated properties. Maybe you want to demolish the properties. Maybe you sort of feel as if really what's the best option is to sort of knock it down and start anew, and how can one of these vehicles sort of help you with that? But in some cases, you may find that the asset you're talking about really it's reached a point where you'd like to move on and you'd like to transfer the assistance somewhere else. And so how can these vehicles help you sort of transfer that assistance to some other place where it's a better location for affordable housing? Or you're trying to thin out the densities, and maybe the property is too dense now, and you'd like to thin it out. But the overall message is to say, it's really what are your objectives, and then trying to figure out your objective. Once you know your objectives, then what's the strategy and what's the repositioning option that best works in your circumstance. So what we're going to do here is look through this sort of larger graphic that says the public housing repositioning options. And we've got the three main conversion options that are in the middle of the page: rental assistance demonstration, Section 18, demo dispo, or voluntary conversion. We have a fourth over up there on the left that we won't really talk beyond this slide about today. There's always the opportunity for PHAs in the public housing program to also decide if they want to do home ownership. Then Section 32 is Section 32 of the Housing Act, sort of a particular program that allows housing authorities to sell units for home ownership. And as part of that, housing authorities still get tenant protection vouchers for every unit they take through Section 32. So even though you may be selling a unit for home ownership, the local community is still, the number of assisted units get preserved because you still add those units to your voucher program. But for the rest of the conversation, we're really going to talk about RAD, Section 18, or voluntary conversion. And as this diagram shows, in terms of sort of what are the options, so it's key to understand that under RAD, the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, that there's two forms of Section 8 that you can pursue. You can either convert to RAD, put yourself on a long-term Section 8 contract, and that long-term contract can either be what we call PBRA, Project-Based Rental Assistance, also known as sort of administered by the Office of Housing, or multifamily housing, or multifamily Section 8. Or you can convert to project-based vouchers. And RAD allows you to do either of those. So again, PBR RAD allows you to sort of to go through the RAD program. You can come out the other way, the other end, with either a PBRA contract or a long-term project-based voucher contract. In the middle, under Section 18, that if a PHA is interested in preserving the property, let's say that you met any one of the tests for Section 18 that Jane will talk about later in terms of what allows you to get to be eligible for Section 18. Once you get approved, HUD will give you tenant protection vouchers for every unit that's been occupied for the past 24 months. And you can do two things with those tenant protection vouchers. The first is, just like under RAD, you can project-base those vouchers at that property. Maybe the property is so far gone that that's not feasible. But there are some housing authorities have found that properties, even though they may meet the obsolescence test or they meet some of the new criteria for Section 18, that still feel that they can repurpose that property or save that property by bringing in either 4% tax credits or 9% credits or some other soft money from the locality, and they may desire to sort of to project-base the vouchers. And so Section 18 is a vehicle for doing that. You can still, through Section 18, create permanent, long-term, affordable housing by project-basing the tenant protection vouchers that you receive for that property. What you can't do is you can't go to PBRA. There's no vehicle to take a property that is public housing and move it over to PBRA, the Office of Multifamily, Section 8, except through RAD. But you can make a project-based voucher and a PBV project out of that. Of course, what you can also do under Section 18 is you can just use those tenant protection vouchers as freestanding vouchers, and you can give it to the residents, and those residents use the vouchers as they would any other voucher. And this you might do if the property really has no potential for being rehabbed, or the site is not a good site, and you just want to move on and either sell the property at fair market value, whatever, so you give the tenants a voucher. So that way that the number of assisted units in a community sort of are maintained. RAD, you can go PBRA or you can go PBV. Section 18, you can only go if you want to keep permanent assisted housing, PBV, but you could also issue the residence vouchers. And then the last main sort of repositioning vehicle we're going to talk about today is voluntary conversion. And we'll get into more details on all three of these in a moment. But in summary, voluntary conversion allows a housing authority, once if you qualify for voluntary conversion, and Jane will talk through the rules on that in a minute. But if you qualify for voluntary conversion, then the first option generally is you give the families a voucher. And just like under Section 18, they can use that voucher like any other voucher holder can use it. But there's also an opportunity for under voluntary conversion for PHA to project-base those vouchers, just like under the Section 18 program, but with one condition, and that is under Section 18, when the Housing Authority decides that they want to project-base the vouchers, the Housing Authority has the right to project-base those vouchers without tenant consent. However, under voluntary conversion, because of the special language of that statute, that while you have an opportunity to project-base the vouchers, you have to get tenant consent before you do it. And so the pros and cons we'll talk a little bit more about shortly is, under these different options. If, for example, I'm a PHA and I'm dead set on wanting to do PBRA, then there's only one opportunity, and that is RAD. But if I'm a PHA that wants to project-base the vouchers, then of course I could do any three of these, except if for whatever reason I was first inclined to do voluntary conversion, I'd have to think through the fact that, I need tenant consent before I project-base those vouchers under voluntary conversion. And that might be not a problem in your community, or it might be to say, well, maybe I'll look at one of these other two options if that seems like it's going to be problematic in your area. So, and the other thing that cuts across all of this, of course, is what's the rents? Under which of these programs, what are my contract rents going to be? And rents are not always the most important factor. There may be other reasons why you decide to choose one of these three, but it can be an important factor. And very often, the Section 18 or voluntary conversion, if you're eligible for those two programs, very often is actually higher than the RAD rents, because the RAD, as we'll talk in just a few moments, is really based on the current funding that PHA gets, and it's can often be less than what the Section 8 rents are. So with that as an overview, let's go into take these down one by one, and we'll start with the rental assistance demonstration program. We'll spend the least time on this because this has been around for 5 or 6 years. And PHAs by now are pretty familiar with RAD, so we'll just do a quick little overview of it. So what is the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program? So it allows public housing authorities to convert to Section 8. All of these tools we just talked about, these conversion options, RAD, Section 18, voluntary conversion, the common theme throughout all of them is that you're converting to Section 8. You're leaving the public housing program and go to Section 8, either as Section 8 project-based assistance or Section 8 vouchers. And RAD is a preservation program, and it allows housing authorities to take their current funding and convert to Section 8, long-term project-based Section 8, either, as we showed in the earlier slide, project-based vouchers or project-based rental assistance. The Congress has been very kind to us and originally authorized 60,000 units and now have since authorized up to 455,000 units. We have today, between what we've closed and what we have for applications and what we have for active awards, we have about 250 or 260,000, so we're a little bit less than 200,000 units that is still sort of excess capacity. And we know there's lots and lots of housing authorities around the country who are deliberately taking their time thinking about RAD, and we expect sort of a lot of the applications coming in over the next year. But the nice part is, because the cap has been raised to 455,000, there's no need for anyone to run home tonight and try to put an application in order to get on the to get an award. There's enough space, and there should be plenty of space for a good year or more before we have to go back to Congress and ask for more authority. As you can see from the graphic on the left, at the heart of RAD is this notion of taking your current funding and converting it into a contract rent. So on the left column, what it shows is sort of 3 buckets of funding that a PHA gets, a hypothetical PHA. It gets an operating fund, it gets a capital fund, it gets a tenant rent. And really what RAD does is it takes those 3 funding streams and converts it to a Section 8 contract rent. It's no more money than you're getting today, but it puts it into a contract rent, so therefore the housing assistance payment, the Section 8 housing assistance payments, replaces what was previously the operating fund and the capital fund. And just like in public housing, as tenant rents go down, then the subsidy goes up, and if tenant rents go up, then the subsidy goes down, so that the owner of the property is protected, but you get that rent, that $792, and that gets you that gets locked into your contract, your housing assistance payment contract, your HAP, and then every year thereafter it increases by an operating cost adjustment factor. So what it allows, really one of the fundamental sort of innovations of RAD, which is innovative only in the sense of when you compare it to public housing, it's not innovative in the Section 8 program, is that you have a contract rent, and that rent is in a long-term contract, and you're able to count on that, and not just you as the housing authority or the owner, but lenders and investors are very comfortable with the long-term Section 8 contracts, and they know how to lend and invest against them. And as we show on the slide also, we have this pretty robust website, and on the website you can get our RAD rents for every project in the country, and there's a table that you just look up your project number, and it shows you the RAD rents, and it shows you your current funding, and it compares it to the current 2019 fair market rents. So we try to make it easier for you. You don't have to compute this on your own. We've already done it for you. A few of the other key features about RADs, we've talked about the rents. They're sort of locked in based on current funding, and it's a long-term contract. Generally for PHAs, that is, before you convert, we ask everyone to give us a physical needs assessment that tells us what the capital needs are today at the property. And really what you're doing is you're saying, before I convert, I've demonstrated that these are my capital needs, and one way or the other, through either long-term replacement reserve deposits or upfront contribution of capital, that basically I can meet my 20-year capital needs. And once I can demonstrate I can meet my 20-year capital needs, then that's what we call a feasible transaction, and that's what we look for. RAD also has some very important tenant rights and protections, in which there's an absolute right to return for all tenants. There's no rescreening, and we continue with the public housing organizing and procedural rights. And moreover, while choice mobility is this opportunity for residents after a year to ask for the next available voucher on the voucher waiting list, that's always been a component of the PBV, Project-Based Voucher Program. It's also a component of the PBRA RAD program. So people can ask for exceptions if they don't operate a voucher program, if they're converting to PBRA. But otherwise, sort of choice mobility is sort of one of the key features of RAD for both PBV and PBRA. Lastly, under RAD, again, sort of statutorily, that there's important provisions that protect that these properties are always continually owned or controlled by a public or nonprofit entity, and these long-term contracts HUD must make an offer to renew, and the owner or the housing authority or whatever has to accept this renewal. So it's really long-term contracts in perpetuity, and that's incorporated and enforced by a RAD special use agreement. So Jane, you want to talk about the next key option we have, Section 18?
Okay, so thank you, Greg. That was really helpful. So we'll fill out a little bit more about what is Section 18 in the voluntary conversion, and then we can talk a little bit more about what are the issues between each of these and why housing authorities might prefer one over the other. Section 18 is Section 18 of the Housing Act of 1937. Congress authorizes the demolition and disposition of public housing through this act under 24 CFR 970 are all the regulations that govern how we go about doing demolitions and dispositions. So HUD generally will approve a property to undergo demolition or disposition under Section 18 if the property is physically obsolete, which we will define and it's been defined regulatorily. I can't say that, but so there is a regulatory definition for physical obsolescence. We've also included scattered sites, and these would be 4 or less units on non-contiguous sites that can prove that there's an operational challenge in maintaining those units. So we're really looking to try to get some of these sites that are far, if somebody has to drive 2 hours to get between them and they get there and it's a different boiler at each house, that's what we're looking for. We also, any PHA that has 50 units or less, we are now saying can come in and get vouchers and close down their Section 9 program. We also will allow housing authorities to do more efficient and effective units. And what we mean by this is if a housing authority can come in and say, if we take out these units, if we sell these units or we demolish these units, we can more effectively operate other units, or we can build new over here, however they want to define that. And there is one caveat to this one, because in this case, we will only give vouchers for up to 25% of the occupied units. So if a housing authority does propose that, we will expect them to tell us how they're going to make sure the other 75% of the units are relocated or cared for if there's not vouchers for them.
So Jane, that last one, more efficient, effective, that it's sort of like an alternative last case way of getting Section 18.
Right.
The PHA is not having to prove to you obsolescence, right? There's no
No, you
obsolescence.
don't have to prove it.
So
Right.
so it's just simply, but you're saying because you're not proving obsolescence, and if it's something really important to your agency to demolish or dispose of that unit, we'll let you do it. But like other Section 8 actions, we're not going to give you 100% TPVs.
That's right.
That's the deal.
That's right. That's the deal. Right.
And
So
the 4 main sort of criteria there that are in the notice, that really the second and third are mostly new, right?
Right.
And the fourth is kind of an expanded sort of somewhat clarified or whatnot. But
Yeah.
So what drove PIH to, for example, on the scattered sites? Why is that now largely almost automatic for Section 18?
So we've had a lot of housing authorities calling and saying, we have all these scattered sites and we know they will never meet the obsolescence test. They're single family homes, and obsolescence by definition, you almost have to have a multifamily building to meet the test. And so we don't have elevators, we don't have, fancy roofs, everything. It's not that expensive to fix up a house. And yet, the only ones that we were seeing that actually met that test were literally burned out to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so they literally had to build the whole new house. And then they could get close to what the test meant. So we realized it just didn't work for them.
That physical obsolescence as a test on its own wasn't enough. Right.
Right. And so we wanted to figure out how, because a lot of these housing authorities were really struggling with these scattered sites units, because they were sending someone out and they'd have to drive half a day to get there, find out they didn't have the right boiler piece, had to drive all the way back to get the right boiler piece, and then the next day they had to go again. So it was just sort of a waste of time for a lot of people, and it wasn't really housing a lot. They weren't gaining a lot for that kind of time, and it was too expensive. So those we wanted to address. And
I've run into a ton of PHAs recently when we talk to them and they're scattered sites, and they're like, yeah, I've got it. It's been a challenge in my agency for years to keep them up. And I can now go through Section 18. And
right.
It's really exciting.
And I can take that money, I can sell those units and build something new. I can give people vouchers if they want to stay in that house.
Yeah.
Maybe we sell it to a nonprofit,
Yeah.
and they can stay in the houses, and the nonprofit has a better way to manage them.
Right.
There's lots of ways to look at that, but we wanted to provide those opportunities.
And similarly, PHAs with 50 or fewer units.
Yeah.
Brand new.
That was new, and we wanted, there we were seeing a lot of PHAs who had been going through RAD and had gotten down to the last 8 units and said, you know what, we really just don't want to maintain, we don't want to keep the program open for 8 units
Right.
anymore. Let's get rid of them.
Right.
Can we do this? Can we go through Section 18? And so what we tried to do, we figured with the 50 units or less, we knew that that was about 26,000 units in total across the country. It wasn't a huge number.
But a ton of agencies.
But a ton of agencies. It was like, I want to say 60% of the agencies in this
Yeah.
country have 50% or less.
800 or 1,000 agencies, yeah, right.
Right, so we wanted to say, all right, if these guys want to figure out a way to close out, that's going to save them in the long run. That housing can stay. They can take those units and project base them immediately and maintain those units, and then maybe have another agency doing the screening of the residents and the maintenance of a project-based voucher program while they just maintain the property.
So we've talked before about residents in these Section 18 actions, or the Housing Authority gets tenant protection vouchers for everything that, at least current policy, occupied over the past 24 months. So earlier, I was trying to explain, you look at these options that HUD has now available to PHAs, and before you choose an option, you first have to decide, what am I trying to achieve? What is my goal and mission of this? So let's say I'm a PHA with a scattered site, and really, it's not that I dislike my scattered sites. It's just been I haven't had enough money under the operating fund or the capital fund to keep them up, and so they may not need obsolescence, but they're hurting, right?
Right.
And so I'd really like to preserve it. I'd like to preserve the asset. So this will lead to our next slide, which is, can I take those tenant protection vouchers and project base them on the property? Is that okay? Will you get bothered? Will you say, what are you doing with that?
Absolutely
So can I preserve an asset by going through Section 18 and also getting tenant protection vouchers?
Yeah, and under HOTMA, which is a new regulation that just came out in 2016,
Right,
17?
the Housing Opportunities Through Modernization Act, right, HOTMA.
Right, and there's 3 new provisions within that act, which does allow housing authorities to now project base these units, and they can receive standard PBV rents. Property is now exempt from the income mixing requirement, which means I think under regular project-based vouchering, only 25% of the units can be vouchers. Because this is existing public housing, it can now be 100% project-based. It does not count against the PBV program cap. So every housing authority that runs a PBV program, you can only go up to 20% of their vouchers. That doesn't apply when you're working on existing public housing. And in addition, if you do not have to go through a competitive selection. Normally, you would need to do that. The only exception will be is if you are a public housing only agency and you have to go to a second agency to partner with them. If they do not have an interest in your property, they would have to go through a competition.
Okay. So I'm going to spend a little time coming back to this issue if I'm a public housing only agency on this, so I'm going to put a pin in that one. But Jane, I'm going to raise what some people may be thinking in the audience right now is they've looked at their RAD rents, which is their current funding. They've looked at what a tenant protection voucher would provide and what the rents are in Section 8, and they're saying that rent in Section 8 is a higher rent than it is in public housing. Is HUD really going to let me do this? Am I going to be able to get the higher rent? So you're the source, right? So I'm going to come to you. So to say, is that okay? Is HUD's really okay?
Yeah.
To say that if the family otherwise would have gotten a tenant protection voucher, and the PHA can make the numbers work, if they want to project base it at that property, they can do that.
Under Section 18, all you have to do is offer the residents you have to give them a viable choice of housing options. So one of them can be a project-based voucher.
If I go into, can get through your Section 18 door, right?
Yeah,
to say,
right.
I'm scattered sites, or I'm PHA under 50, or whatever obsolescence. And if it turns out that those Section 8 rents are higher, that's perfectly okay. That I can
That's right.
project base them back at if I can somehow preserve still that property.
Right.
And we're fine with that as a department, which is that if this preserves the property and it's still within no more than we would have paid otherwise through the tenant protection program, then yes, it's perfectly legitimate for a housing authority to do that. And that's a really powerful new tool for housing authorities, is if in fact you can make all that work, which is be eligible for one of these preservation actions where you get tenant protection vouchers, and if you can still make the property viable through project basing them, then we're good with that.
Right. But keep in mind, you have to get through the door for it.
You have to get through the door, right.
You have to do the justifications, and
Right.
you have to be able to justify why you think you fit through the door for a Section 18 demolition or disposition.
So now let's go through sort of another way of, it's not really quite through your Section 18 door, but your office still oversees it, which is streamline or voluntary conversion, and then we have more recently streamlined voluntary conversion.
Right.
So what option is that? What does that mean for PHA?
So Congress under 24 CFR 970 and it's actually Section 22 of the Housing Act, put together what they said was a voluntary conversion, which says essentially that if a housing authority can prove that it is more cost effective to operate the property with a voucher than public housing, they can get the vouchers and switch over. So we do know that there's a small percentage of housing authorities out there where in fact it's more cost effective to run it as a voucher program than it is as public housing.
Right. And it's not going to be Boston, right? Because the Section 8 rents are $1,600 for a one-bedroom unit, and the housing authorities in Boston might be getting in the operating and capital fund program $1,000 or something, right?
But there are many out there that it does work.
Yeah.
And so they can come in, but they have to prove this to us. We have a cost test that is part of the regulation, 24 CFR 972, and so they'd have to go through and prove it through that cost test.
Right, and that cost test, again, show us that if you gave someone a voucher, it would cost less than we were paying that housing authority for the public housing program. So that's the standard voluntary conversion statute.
Right. So we've just issued, earlier this year, a new streamlined voluntary conversion. Congress did give us the authority to make some waivers of some of the requirements under the voluntary conversion. And what we've chosen to do is for any PHA with 250 units or less that wishes to close out their public housing program, they can come in and get vouchers. They don't have to go through the cost test. They don't have to prove the cost test. Nothing. They just have to be willing to close out their public housing project.
So if my property is really a bad property, I guess I could have gone through Section 18 obsolescence, but assume that for some reason I couldn't have met obsolescence, and my agency and my board is tired, and we decide that's really, the time now is just vouchering out is, not many PHAs seem to want that as an option, but it's available. So I could just voucher it out, just shut down and close it.
We know that where we're seeing this often is housing authorities that have a robust voucher program.
Say my project works in my community.
And really, they've been operating this 39-unit building forever, and they're just like, I'm kind of done. It would be easier for me to put this in a nonprofit and not have to go through all these Section 9 regulations. I want to do it fast and easy. That's
so perfectly acceptable. That's what the program allows for. But if that PHA is thinking about preservation, go back to what are my goals? What am I trying to achieve as the housing authority? And if my goal is I'm trying to preserve these assets and I'm trying to look at whether it's RAD or Section 18 or streamlined voluntary conversion, I also am looking at that rent schedule that shows those Section 8 rents compared to RAD. and it looks like those Section 8 rents in my market are higher,
So,
and you're saying to me I can do streamlined voluntary conversion. Can I use this also to project-based? Can I use this as a preservation tool? And if so, how do I do that?
so this one's a little trickier than Section 18. We do give you the vouchers for this. However, the way that the statute is written, they go to the residents first. And you have to go through an education process with the residents, to which a HUD official must be invited to that discussion. And they have to sign off in writing that they're okay allowing that voucher to be project-based. So it cannot be a direct project-based voucher.
I need the tenant consent to
You
do it.
need tenant
And
consent.
just to make sure that
Right.
there's no shenanigans or whatever, that HUD, to reduce program risk, is asking everyone, the PHAs, is if you're going to plan to do that, give the local field office a call so they can either go to one of the resident meetings or participate by phone when you're having those planning meetings. So if I'm, again, thinking across these three options, I'm trying to preserve my assets, I'm thinking, okay, RAD, one of the things that RAD does that these other two don't provide is I can go to PBRA. So if in my mind, I really want to do PBRA, then I'm much more inclined to do RAD. RAD also has other things that might be important to a community. I'm not just trying to sell the program. It's got tenant protections, right, and right to return, and protections against rent increases and some things like that. So those are some things that these other provisions just never had. But if let's say the Section 8 rents are going to be much higher with tenant protection vouchers, so I'm leaning towards Section 18 or I'm leaning towards streamlined voluntary conversion, if I have to get tenant consent for the project-based vouchers, my housing authority might lean towards Section 18 as opposed to streamlined voluntary, if I can get through the Section 18 door.
Right.
But there's one other thing that that I forgot to mention earlier, and that is Section 18 is at the heart of it. It's a disposition program.
That's right.
So I have to dispose of the asset,
Right.
and so I can't just decide to remove the units from PIC or do an inventory removal and still continue to own it. I have to dispose of that asset in order to sort of meet the statute. So most housing authorities dispose of Section 8. Well, they could sell it at fair market value, but if the PHA itself is planning to sort of try to preserve it, they often need to sort of create or make arrangements with some affiliate or instrumentality.
Right,
That's the
right.
most common way in which they dispose of it to some related
Right.
party, right?
Right,
And that's
right.
fine?
And they can do that. As long as they create, as long as it is a state-recognized agency.
Yeah.
So there has to be a change in title. So you need to be able to go into the Recorder of Deeds and actually change the name on the title. It cannot be in the name of the housing authority, and it can be, as long as it goes to any state-created agency. So if that means the housing authority wants to keep that board intact and they want to sell it to a nonprofit that they created and they control, they can do that. But there has to be a change in the name on the title.
And some PHAs may think that, well, why are we messing with you? Why is this option have this constraint and this option have this constraint and all that? And
A lot of that's regulatory.
yeah, it's a lot of it's
Yeah.
it's statutory, in fact. And so,
Right.
really what the HUD is trying to do is see, with all the tools that are available out there, how can we make them all work? And we understand that sometimes it's not perfect. But we're doing our best to push as much as we can to help you have more effective tools in your communities. But every PHA has to go in there with its eyes open and say,
Right.
okay, what am I trying to do, and which of these options it best works in my community, and I feel makes the most sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back to the voluntary conversion,
Yeah.
particularly streamlined voluntary conversion, with the idea that this of project basing. Clearly, if you can get all the residents to sign on, that's the best scenario.
Yep.
if you can't, some or few of them don't want to, you can still maintain the property. The residents can remain in place with their tenant-based voucher. They don't have to agree to base it. It's just going to be a little more challenging on the financing. It's still a good option. It's not a great option, but it works. And then if a lot of the tenants leave, the PHA then has an opportunity to either do a mixed finance property or to backfill it with other PBVs.
Right,
so these are all,
Yep.
they have their own challenges, but we do think that this is all available.
Yep. Jane, one of the other things on, we mentioned public housing only agencies. We use that term to mean a housing authority that has only a public housing program and doesn't operate a voucher program.
Right.
And so if I go through one of these options in which I'm going to go to PBV, if I'm a public housing only agency, the first question we get from housing authorities is, can I be a voucher agency? I don't have one now. I've got these 100 units. Can I? So we're
not creating any new voucher agencies. We're not doing. So
we're not creating some new. So does that mean I'm out of luck and I can't do this?
No, but we do encourage you to work with your field offices to find somebody.
Yeah.
And your field offices are aware and know. And we've begun some conversations about doing some training around voucher programs as well.
And one of the just unfortunate parts for public housing only agencies who want to go down and do project-based vouchers is some of those provisions that Jane talked to earlier about under the HOTMA, Housing Opportunities through Modernization Act, that exempted formerly assisted properties or including public housing properties from either program caps in the PBV program or competitive selection and income mixing, is with the competitive selection in particular, that sort of exemption from that provision doesn't apply if you're hooking up with some other voucher agency, because it's only when it's your agency, it's your assets that you're project basing, and so you just have to plan that out, and you have to work with your other voucher administrator to put out a solicitation on it. We'll take a minute on small and very small PHAs and to say, so if I'm but we're just using right now the definition of small PHA of 250 and under. At various times that what's considered large or small or very small seems to be in flux, but for purposes here, small PHA is something under 250. So what can I do? I can do streamlined voluntary conversion because it's under 250. And of course, I can always do Section 18 obsolescence or scattered sites, but the Section 18 sort of automatic pass at 50 or fewer units really only applies to PHAs when you get down to your last 50. And we also, under RAD, have a complementary sort of reform, which is sort of streamlining, is under RAD, if you're a PHA with 50 or fewer units, then we don't require a full financing plan. You don't have to give us a development budget. You don't have to give us a capital needs assessment. You don't have to give us a pro forma. And so we just try to make it as easy as possible for you to convert if you're a very small PHA. Now, Jane, I also wanted to ask to say that with respect to these sort of provisions, are they static? I mean, can I only choose one, or can I use them in combination? And what's...
So, the streamlined voluntary conversion in particular, that 250 and less, that we have to be able to go into PIC on the date of the application itself and see that there's only 250 units or less.
You're down to lefty. So a question I get a lot. PHA say, today I'm 500 units.
Yeah.
And I have a bunch of either Section 18 actions that are pending, and I'm going to do some RAD units, and soon I'll be down to 200. Will I be eligible for that, or is it because I started off at 500, am I not eligible for it?
you are eligible for it, but you need to complete the other transactions
before you come in.
first,
All right.
before you come in.
And what about the Section 18 for 50 and under? If
The
I'm a-
Section 8, yeah, so that one, we will allow you if it's part of a RAD deal.
You can combine it at the same
Same
time.
time. So in other words, so that as of the date that it closes,
Yeah.
it's all part of one finance package.
But what if I were once a 1,000-unit PHA? I've repositioned everything but my last 50 units. I'm down to my last 50. Can I still come in under this 50 and under, or the fact that I was a large PHA, I'm ineligible?
Nope,
once?
you can come in under the 50 and
I
under.
get down to my last 50, I
Yep.
can
There's
come
nothing
in
that
for
says you
you
can't,
and
right.
get Section 18 and do 10 big vouchers.
Yeah, just because you were big ones doesn't mean you're always big.
Great.
So we can do that. But the one big caveat on all of these programs is you have to commit to closing out your Section 9 program.
So if you do streamlined voluntary conversion, you have to commit to, I'm taking those last 250 out.
Yep.
Or if I do the 50 and under, I have to commit, I'm doing the last 50
50,
out.
right.
And same streamlined RAD, you have to commit.
Right,
to.
so that means you're gonna close
finishing.
out, you're closing out your entire public housing inventory, you're no longer gonna get operating funds, you're no longer getting cap funds, and you need to give up your fair cloth authority.
Right.
That's a big deal for housing authorities that wanna use that authority to rebuild. So that's something else to consider.
Another sort of plug here for these repositioning calls that we've announced
Yeah.
on other occasions, and where PHAs getting on the phone with someone from my office and from Jane's office and from PIH Field and talking through that. Often PHAs come to us with a collection of properties, and they're trying to figure out, well, I do this combination, all that. And people get very creative, and we encourage them to be creative, and often find out that actually there's enough tools there to get them where they want to go. It's fun
Right.
when that happens.
So a couple things that you do need to know before we go any further. Under RAD transfer of assistance, you can actually take your assistance off of one property and move it to another property. So if you've got a piece of land in another area that you want to build a tax credit property with, you can do that and actually take off the assistance from an old piece of property and move it.
Yeah.
It's called the transfer of assistance.
It literally gives me goosebumps when I see PHAs do that, when they have a property that's not working and they have somewhere else where they can make the assistance work. They're not stuck with that asset anymore. It's
That's
really,
right.
It's great. I love it when I see it, when that comes
Right.
in.
And that's a huge opportunity for housing authorities to be able to move like that. And you can still convert with PBRA under RAD if you don't have an HCV program, or you can partner with another PHA that has one
To do PBV.
to
right,
be PBV.
Yep.
So, or receive TPVs under SAC approval, either way. There's one other thing that we really haven't spent a lot of time talking about, and that's the RAD Section 18 blend.
So sort of in quotations, RAD Section 18 blends,
Right.
end quotation. That's really a particular program. It's a sort of special provision that is really trying to merge the benefits
Right.
of both programs. So
So
how's it work?
what we were getting, the SAC office was getting a number of phone calls saying, we've been really working to try to get RAD to work. The numbers just aren't there. We're not getting the rents we need. We need a little bit more boost. So what we've determined is that if they get 25% of the project as Section 18 and get the vouchers, sometimes that's enough to get
Get 'em
them
over.
over. Cannot use 9% credits, it has to be some other financing besides 9%, and you have to renovate at least up to 60% of the hard construction cost numbers to get that to work. But if you do, you apply through RAD as if you're doing a regular RAD deal, and we'll just automatically give you the 25%.
Yeah. We are, a shout out to Oklahoma City. That was the very first PHA in the country
Right.
to do the RAD Section 18 blend. We happened to be in Oklahoma for a presentation a few months ago, and we got a chance to see it. And there, the PHA, I
Beautiful.
forget the numbers, because of that extra rents from 25% of the units, they were able to do several $1 million worth of additional work. It was great.
Yeah.
And so we proved we can figure out how to make it work, how to communicate with one another, how to get all the tenant protection vouchers there at the time for closing, all the back office stuff. So it's a really nice little feature for people. So we encourage people to, definitely look at that.
Yeah, I think that's a good program. Okay, so things that you need to think about as you begin to start this process. What are your local needs? That's really key. What's going on in your neighborhood? What's going on with your properties? What's going on with your PHA? Look at that first, and then consider your repositioning options. You'll need to talk to your board, talk to your residents, and your local stakeholders. Under all of these programs, we're going to require you to give us, tell us what you told the residents, tell us what you told the local stakeholders and local government, and we need a board resolution on everything. So make sure you talk to them and get feedback on what you need to do.
So kind of to sum up again, hey, we've talked really about 4 major strategies. There's RAD, there's Section 18 demo dispo, there's the RAD Section 18 blend, and there's voluntary conversion. And what in your community, what works best, or what combination of those works best for you? In the next slide, we won't go through this in detail. This is we're going to post the slides. But every program is just a little different on some of the characteristics. So, for example, when you do RAD, you're not eligible for asset repositioning fee under the operating fund or demolition disposition transitional funding DDTF under the capital fund, because RAD you're sort of moving over from one subsidy stream to the other. But under Section 18, you still are eligible for those. But under voluntary conversion, again, you're not. So part of this is, again, really a function of the specific statutes that sort of govern each program. But sort of understanding what those basic requirements are under each, then you decide what works best for you.
Yeah, and just the other thing to think about too are things, what are your assets that you currently have now? Reserves is a big issue. We've had this on many phone calls when a housing authority says, I have good reserves and I like my reserves and I want to keep them. The only program that allows you to do that is RAD.
Right.
The other programs, you are basically terminating your Section 9 program. And once it stops being public housing, any public housing funds do not transfer with the property. So keep that in mind.
So a couple things. One is, are you just being an ogre? Right? I mean, are you just making up these rules? And but we're dealing with statute, right? So the statute says that public housing funds have to be used for the public housing program. So therefore, we actually have no discretion on that, other than RAD, which had specific statutory language that said you could use those funds as part of conversion. So if you have operating reserves and you're trying to go to Section 18 or you're trying to do voluntary conversion and you're going to close out your program through those vehicles, then be aware that you've got reserves and you'll have to find a way to spend that on a legitimate public housing purposes before you close out. And most PHAs, as long as you plan properly, should be able to do that. They've got roof work they need to do, they've got underground plumbing, whatever. But if you're sitting on a big chunk and maybe you can't, then that's maybe a reason to go back to RAD, look at RAD to say, well, there I can throw it into the reserve for the future project, and that's permissible by statute. But yeah, so thinking through what you've got for reserves in public housing funding is one of the key planning decisions for any conversion efforts that you're doing. So we've put a couple tools, in the slide deck for you that you should really be aware of. There's, we've recently published the 2019 rents. It shows every project in the country and what by bedroom size, what the rents are, and compares them to 2019 fair market rent and whatnot. So that's really helpful. We also just republished a new RAD conversion or RAD inventory assessment tool. A very, very powerful document. Give you sort of a quick sort of overview of how much leverage and all you can do through RAD. But we also have a nice sort of RAD conversion guide for PHAs. These are some pretty good materials, and we are so those are ones to help just sort of assess your portfolio. We're also encouraging you to really chat it up with your field office. They've been incredibly helpful, and we're encouraging sort of first line of defense for PHAs to talk to their field offices about what their plans are and what options are available.
Right, right. And they can schedule your panel calls if you're interested in one. They've got all kinds of ideas and thoughts and things that they can bring to you.
And then lastly, we love these headings here, reading, talking, acting, right? So
Right.
you can read the notice, you can read the RAD notice, the Section 18 notice, streamlined voluntary conversion. We're posting sort of a new website on repositioning. Talk to the field office, ask for one of these repositioning calls, and then pull the trigger and give us an application, whether under either Section 18 or voluntary conversion or RAD. So anyway, what today's session is just really trying to top line what's possible, what's available, maybe whet your appetite a bit. It's a good time right now. It's, I think, better than ever for PHAs who are trying to do things around preservation and how to look at their assets. There are more tools now. None of us are saying that it's perfect, right? Right? And resources still are limited. We fully understand that. But it's a much more hopeful place to be today than it was even just a few years ago. So
Yeah, we're trying.
we're trying.
We're really trying hard.
So
to figure this
anyway,
out, so.
thank you for joining us for our repositioning call. Thanks, Jane.
Thanks, Greg.
Yes.
Appreciate it.